So picture this. It's 1978.
Right.
And the legendary anthropologist Margaret Mead is lying in this incredibly sterile hospital room. She's actually dying of cancer at this point.
Yeah, which is just a profound setting for what comes next.
Exactly. I mean, for decades, she had traveled all over the globe, right? Studying how human societies hold themselves together, how they pass down wisdom, how they basically make meaning out of just total chaos.
Mhm.
But looking out her hospital window, she saw a society that was unraveling in a way that, well, it had literally never happened before in the history of our species.
Never.
She saw this profound societal disorientation, and so she decided to write one final, just desperate message about it.
Yeah. And that manuscript, which, was only recently recovered and published posthumously, is called No Land Behind Us.
Right.
And because she wrote it right at the very end of her life, it was presented pretty much exactly as they found it, like very minimal editorial notes.
It's raw.
It has this incredibly raw, unfiltered urgency to it. She isn't writing some detached academic paper here. She is desperately trying to leave a survival guide for a species that has essentially lost its map.
Which makes it the absolute perfect text for our mission on today's deep dive. We are going to explore Mead's radical observation that humanity has entered this completely unprecedented era where the past, well, can no longer guide us.
We're at a threshold.
A total historical threshold. And over the next few minutes, we're going to discover what she believes is the actual only way forward for you, for me, and for the generations coming after us. So, okay, let's unpack this. Starting with this foundational concept she introduces right at the beginning, the loss of the backward glance. What exactly is she getting at there?
So it sounds a bit like nostalgia, I know, but she actually means something highly structural.
Right.
The backward glance is this deeply embedded physical assumption that the past is the literal ground on which the present stands.
The actual ground.
Yes. It's the feeling right in your bones that the people and the places that came before you, they provide your footing in the world. And to illustrate how vital this is, Mead points to her fieldwork in Bali. Specifically, their spatial orientation system, which is called a Kajikilo axis.
Oh, I remember reading about this. It's a completely different way of just moving through the world, isn't it?
Completely. I mean, in
Yeah.
Bali, traditional life is entirely oriented around these two geographic poles. You have the mountain, which is considered the sacred home of the ancestors.
Right.
And then you have the sea, which represents demons and dissolution.
Wow.
And literally every temple, every bed, every bodily movement is aligned along this specific axis. A Balinese person knows exactly where the mountain is at all times, even in their sleep.
That's wild.
If you put them in a completely windowless room, their body still knows. They basically carry the geography of their ancestors inside their own nervous system.
But then Mead asks this just devastating question about modernization. She asks, what happens when a Balinese child is moved away from that geography? Like, what if they're raised in a smoggy concrete apartment block in a massive city like Jakarta?
Well, the mountain disappears.
Yeah.
And when the mountain disappears from daily reality, that effortless somatic orientation just goes with it. The child in the city has to be consciously taught where the mountain is. And as Mead astutely points out, whatever has to be explicitly taught.
And easily be forgotten.
Exactly. It's no longer living in the body.
And what's fascinating here is, well, wait, you have thought on this.
I was just going to say, what's fascinating here is that Mead isn't just describing a geographical loss. She's really describing the architectural collapse of a culture itself.
Right.
When that child in Jakarta loses the mountain, they lose their physical location in the stream of time. They become untethered. And Mead experienced a highly clinical version of this, untethering herself during her cancer treatments, sitting in these modern medical waiting rooms. She actually coined a very specific term for these spaces.
Non-places.
Non-places, yes. It captures the biological reality of those rooms so perfectly. I mean, think about sitting in a modern clinic or like an airport terminal.
Oh, airports are the worst for this.
Right. You are surrounded by artificial light, the mechanical hum of air conditioning, this perfectly stabilized temperature. But human biology evolved over millions of years to constantly read the environment.
The slant of the sun, the smell of rain.
Exactly. The subtle shifts in temperature that tell your body your latitude and your season. But in a non-place, the environment gives your sensory organs absolutely zero information. You are physically located nowhere.
It's like humanity has been navigating by the stars for millennia. Your ancestors taught you how to read the constellations, and that shared knowledge kept you tethered to the universe. And then suddenly, this thick, impenetrable canopy of concrete and clouds just rolls in permanently. You don't just lose your directions to the grocery store, you lose your entire sense of being connected to the cosmos.
That's a great way to put it.
And because we've lost our connection to physical places, the people who used to act as our map makers, our elders, they suddenly lose their societal value. Their geographic and historical wisdom is essentially useless in a concrete apartment block.
And that loss of elder utility leads directly to what Mead calls the grandmother problem.
The grandmother problem.
Yeah, and this is where the timeline of human history basically just snaps. For the very first time in the history of our species, the oldest members of a society possess less practical, adaptive knowledge than the youngest members.
That is just a staggering paradigm shift. Like, imagine a grandmother born in the year 1900. By the time she is holding her grandchild in the 1970s, her entire understanding of how the world operates has been overturned. She grew up with horse-drawn carriages, and now she is watching moon landings, nuclear bombs, and the dawn of the computer age. Her experiential knowledge is functionally obsolete.
It is. And Mead actually saw the rehearsal for this profound disconnect during her fieldwork in Manus in 1953. She describes this deeply tragic scene involving cargo cults.
Oh, right.
To give you some quick context, during World War II, the American military set up bases on these Pacific islands, and they were dropping massive amounts of supplies, cargo from airplanes.
Yeah.
When the war ended, the Americans left, and obviously the supplies stopped.
Oh.
So the young men of the islands began building these crude, fake airstrips and control towers out of palm logs and bamboo.
Hoping to magically summon the airplanes back.
Hoping to summon them back. Yeah.
So they were essentially performing a modern technological ritual without understanding any of the underlying mechanics.
Precisely. And Mead observed the grandmothers just sitting in the shade watching these young men build these fake airstrips. The elders knew in their bones that this was magical thinking, that it was total madness.
But they couldn't stop it.
They had no language the young could hear. Their traditional authority had been completely bypassed by the shock of modern technology. The circuit of wisdom was just broken.
Wow.
Yet biologically, an infant still studies that grandmother's face with absolute trust. The infant's nervous system says, "Trust her. She is the elder who knows how to survive." But the surrounding culture says she doesn't know anything about how this new world works.
I mean, I have to push back here a little bit, though, because doesn't every single generation complain that the younger generation doesn't respect the old ways?
Sure they do.
I mean, Socrates famously complained that books and writing were going to ruin young people's memories. It's practically a human tradition to think the youth are totally lost. So how is Mead's observation any different from the standard grumpy kids these days lament?
That is a completely valid critique. And Mead actually anticipates that exact pushback in the manuscript. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, she is emphatically not making a moral judgment about the youth.
Okay.
She is identifying a structural anthropological shift into a brand new era she coins an afigurative culture.
Afigurative.
Right. And to understand why this is different from Socrates, we really have to look at the three types of culture she defines. First, you have post-figurative cultures. In those societies, the past replicates itself almost perfectly. The grandparent is the ultimate model for the future.
Like the youth look to the elders to see exactly what their own lives will look like.
Exactly. Then you have co-figurative cultures, where peers teach peers. A great example of this is the American suburb after World War II. Young parents moved away from their extended families in the cities to live in places like Levittown.
Right, the new suburbs.
The grandparents weren't around to teach the kids how to live, so the kids learned from the television and from the other kids on the cul-de-sac.
Which brings us to the third type, the one we are entering now.
The afigurative culture, meaning a culture without a figure, without any model at all.
None at all.
The rate of technological and societal change is so extreme that no human being currently alive has relevant experience for the present moment. It's not that the youth are stubbornly ignoring the elders' map. It's that the elders' map is of a continent that is literally sunk into the ocean.
We are walking into country that has never been walked by anyone.
And we are dragging our children into that uncharted territory with us, which is fundamentally changing how we interact with them.
How so?
Well, Mead illustrates this by observing parents waiting at airports. She notes how modern parents utilize intermittent attention. They toggle.
Toggle?
Yeah. They look at the child, then down at the magazine, then back to the child, then up at the departure board. Pulse, 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 pause.
And between those pulses, the child is just left suspended in a kind of sensory void.
Yes. Contrast that with the Samoan mothers Mead observed in the 1920s. Those mothers provided a continuous, unbroken peripheral web of physical and social awareness. A Samoan baby never had to wonder if they were held within the group's attention.
Wow.
But the modern child, experiencing that airport toggling, they are being raised to expect discontinuity. They're learning from infancy to build a nervous system that expects the world to drop them repeatedly.
And that discontinuity doesn't just affect child rearing. It fundamentally fractures how we pass on knowledge itself. Because the world is changing so fast, we are abandoning deep bodily wisdom and replacing it with cold, hard, easily transferable data.
We really are.
Mead warns that we are trading inhabited knowledge for disembodied knowledge.
She points to the rise of the computer and information compression as the primary drivers of this. She contrasts the computer with the traditional Balinese dancer. A dancer in Bali starts training at age 4. She repeats the complex movements thousands and thousands of times over years of essentially uncompressible time. She doesn't just learn the data of the choreography. The knowledge literally lives in her muscles, her reflexes, her breathing.
She becomes the dance.
She becomes the dance. Whereas a computer does the exact opposite. It extracts knowledge from the human body and stores it immortally on a server. You can download the capital of Peru into a database in a millisecond, but you cannot download a way of standing in the world.
I love that. You cannot download a way of standing in the world. It makes me think of the difference between reading the sheet music for a beautiful symphony versus like sitting in a small room feeling the physical vibrations of a cellist who is pouring their entire life's grief and joy into the instrument.
Beautiful analogy.
A computer can perfectly preserve the sheet music, the data survives, but the soul, the bodily resonance of the human being playing it, that is completely stripped away.
And when we strip away that bodily resonance, we lose what Mead beautifully terms our technologies of belonging. We've optimized our lives for efficiency, sure, but in doing so, we've hollowed out the biological rituals that actually keep us sane.
Let's delve into the mechanics of that. What exactly is a technology of belonging?
Take the simple act of eating together. Historically, sharing a meal wasn't just about caloric intake. It was a profound biological act of trust.
You're eating the same food.
Exactly. You are taking someone else's food into your physical body. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, sitting down to eat with your tribe signals to your parasympathetic nervous system that you are safe.
Right.
It lowers your heart rate, it regulates your stress, and it served as a crucial educational ritual driven by conversation and gossip, which wove the moral fabric of the community together.
But today, we treat our bodies like machines that just need to be fueled up as quickly as possible. We eat sad desk salads alone while staring at a spreadsheet, or we scarf down an airport sandwich facing a blank wall. We've optimized the caloric intake, but we've completely severed the evolutionary safety signal.
And we've done the exact same thing with death. Death used to be a highly communal physical event. Now, it has been delegated to hospitals and professionals in uniforms. We've lost the communal rituals of wailing and keening. Those visceral bodily acts of collective mourning that physically process trauma and weave a broken community back together.
And Mead experienced this very alienation while writing the manuscript. She was dying of cancer in a modern hospital, and she writes about the agonizing experience of being reduced to blood counts and imaging results on a medical chart. The doctors look at the data, not at her face. She calls this ontological violence.
Ontological meaning the nature of being itself. They are committing violence against her humanity by treating her disease as a separate mechanical entity.
Yeah.
They completely ignore the web of relationships, the rich history, and the profound why of her life. The medical system is frantically keeping the mechanism running without ever stopping to ask what the mechanism is actually running for.
So, if our physical places, our communal meals, our generational wisdom, and our mourning rituals have all been hollowed out by this relentless push for efficiency, how are you, the person listening right now, supposed to survive in this profound societal disorientation?
It sounds incredibly bleak, doesn't it? Like we are just floating in a void.
It does. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because Mead does not leave us in despair. She is adamant that we cannot go backward. The past is gone and the old maps are useless.
Right.
Instead, we must actively develop a navigational culture.
A navigational culture. And that moves entirely away from the idea of following a static, inherited map. To explain this, Mead points to the master Polynesian navigators.
Oh, I love this part.
These were sailors who crossed thousands of miles of open, terrifying ocean without a single instrument. No compass, no astrolabe, no drawn maps.
Which begs the question, how is that even possible?
By reading the present moment with intense multisensory attention, they felt the specific temperature of the water. They watched the behavior of very specific birds that indicated land was nearby.
Wow.
They could literally feel the rhythm of a wave that had bounced off an island 30 miles away, just reverberating against the hull of their canoe. They didn't know where they were going on a chart. They knew exactly where they were right now. They read the raw, immediate reality.
To bring that concept back to modern life, Mead shares a really touching anecdote. She was giving a lecture, and afterward, a 22-year-old college student approached her.
Right.
This young woman has a 4.0 GPA. She's brilliant, but she confesses to Mead, "I don't know how to live." She says her grandmother, who raised 6 kids on a dirt farm, just knew how to live.
Yeah.
And Mead explains to the student that her grandmother's knowledge was held up by the water of her community, her rituals, and her land. She didn't even know she was swimming. But for this modern student, the water has evaporated. She has to learn to swim in air.
Swim in air.
But I have to be honest, though, that sounds incredibly poetic, but I can't just, read the currents to pay my mortgage or deal with a difficult boss. If we abandon our maps and just live in the sensory present, aren't we just acting like children? How does this actually apply to modern adulthood without descending into total chaos?
This raises an important question, and Mead's answer is brilliantly counterintuitive. Acting like children is exactly her point.
Wait, really?
Yes, children possess an innate capacity for what she calls unmediated encounter.
Unmediated encounter, meaning they experience things without a filter.
Exactly. When an adult looks at an object, they instantly categorize it based on past experience. A child just engages with the raw reality of the thing itself. Mead writes about watching a little girl playing on the linoleum floor of a TWA terminal.
Okay.
This girl takes a stray shoe, a discarded boarding pass, and a plastic horse, and she builds a complete immersive cosmos out of them. She is entirely anchored in the present moment, making profound meaning out of random debris.
But then adult reality intrudes.
Always. Her younger brother wanders over and wants to play. The mother immediately steps in and forces the little girl to share, applying adult rules of fairness and property. And the moment those rigid inherited extractions are imposed, the cosmos collapses. The magic vanishes. The shoe is just a shoe again. Mead argues that our entire education system is essentially designed to train this natural navigational capacity out of us.
That's so sad.
We are taught to see categories, types, and historical precedents instead of engaging with the specific, messy reality right in front of us.
We educate the navigator right out of the child.
We do. But Mead's final, most powerful realization is that the capacity never truly leaves us. The land is not behind us. The ground is beneath our feet.
You mean our physical bodies?
Yes. The human body itself.
Yeah.
Our breath, our biological need for connection, our innate capacity to make meaning out of chaos. That is the true foundation. It survives every cultural collapse, every technological revolution, and every generational shift. It is the one thing that remains.
Wow. What an incredible journey she takes us on. I mean, we started with the loss of the Balinese mountain and the fading of that somatic physical orientation. We explored the grandmother problem, where elder wisdom becomes obsolete in the face of rapid technological change. We waded through the chilling reality of disembodied computer data and the ontological violence of being reduced to a medical mechanism.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
But we arrived at this incredibly hopeful, resilient vision of the Polynesian navigators, teaching us how to swim in air by returning to the unmediated sensory presence of our own bodies.
That's exactly it.
So what does this all mean for you? It means that while the cultural water you thought was holding you up may have evaporated, you are not drowning. You still possess the innate biological tools to navigate the present moment. You just have to trust your own ability to encounter the world as it actually is, rather than how you were taught it should be.
You have to feel the ground beneath your own feet.
Now, I want to leave you with one final haunting thought drawn from Mead's manuscript that we didn't even get to fully explore today. It's about the flattening of our language.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Mead noted in the late 70s that as our languages optimize for speed and efficiency, they lose their capacity to dwell. They lose their comfort with silence, nuance, and ambiguity.
Right, because language is a perceptual organ. It
Yeah.
dictates what we can actually perceive.
Exactly. Mead argues that if your language becomes flattened, your emotional landscape flattens with it. So think about your own life. If your primary mode of communication is an instant, ultra-efficient text message, what happens to your ability to make deep, complex meaning?
Yeah.
Are we optimizing ourselves into a world where we can say absolutely anything instantly, but we mean absolutely nothing?
We risk losing the capacity to dwell in the mystery of being human.
So today, see if you can reclaim a little bit of silence, dwell in a moment without trying to categorize it or immediately share it. Because ultimately, we don't need the clean binary precision of an old map to show us the way forward. We are navigating uncharted territory, yes, but to find your way through, all you really need to do is pay attention to the rise and fall of your own breath. Thank you so much for joining us on today's deep dive. We'll see you next time.